If you are interested in starting your own podcast, we use Buzzsprout because it is simple and easy to use. Buzzsprout can get your show listed on every major platform while giving you the resources for a great podcast website, audio players that can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening to your podcast, and tools to promote your episodes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and that is why over 100,000 podcasters are already subscribed to Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Following the link in our episode descriptions lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you. So in return, you will receive a $20 Amazon gift card from Buzzsprout while signing up for a paid plan. Most importantly, every subscription through our link is always appreciated and helps support our show so we can continue delivering the quality content that you guys listen to. That being said, back to the show.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Junkies. I'm Andrew,
This is Joe.
and this time we're coming at you. We've got some intriguing topics related to comics. We're kind of just going to go through a little bit of rundown here. Just fielded some questions that I figured we could answer. They're kind of philosophical, kind of, open interpretation. So let's see if we could find a little groove here while answering these and see what we can churn up. Before we get into it, how's it hanging, Joe?
Pretty good.
That's
First
good.
one pretty stressful, but that makes doing this so much more fun to me.
Yeah.
And I apologize if there's overlap for listeners because I'm sure we've addressed a lot of the topics that we're going to address today, but it doesn't hurt to get
Talk
our
about it again.
updated perspective of it, or alternatively, maybe we might relay something that we haven't in the past, or maybe we haven't talked about these topics at all. So just kind of a fun, like, question and answer episode.
Oh, so fun. So let's start it off with a good one. Our first question is, our topic, I guess, is grading and preservation. Damn, I can't even hit the word right. The grading and preservation of comic books. So, the methods of importance of grading them, like CGC, how it affects the value. I mean, of course it affects the value. Well, give me your thoughts before we start going here.
It affects the value both ways because, I mean, first off, if you're going to grade, your best bet's probably CGC. But
Oh, for sure.
that being said, if you're going to grade a newer book and you know it's going to be anything less than a nine, like you just wasted money and time because not only are you sending it in, but it'll probably go for less than what a raw would go because now people know for sure that it's not mint or near mint. On the opposite side of things, if you have a mint book and you send it in, I'm sure you can make a lot of money off of the book, even if it's not as big as some other books that you would be submitting. I hate when people submit random books. So for people collecting out there, I know it's nice to have everything identified and like categorized, but in the same breath, like, what are you going to do? Like, slab every book in your collection.
Yeah.
So when a book gets older and it's a key issue, you can be a lot more lax on what the grade would be because nobody's going to complain about like a 1/8 Superman. So it can be smart if you're into comic books as an investment. But in the same breath, I think there's better investments out there. I know that people like to kind of merge their hobbies and passions with business, and it's doable, don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm in it for. And so usually if I'm buying a book that's slabbed, I'm going to crack it because I'm a collector first. So yeah, I guess that would be my take on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said, but I mean, there's a few pros for it. I mean, as a buyer, you get to look up the notes. You can actually see what's messed up. Because, I mean, you can ask a seller and they can be honest. I feel like most of them have been honest, but, there's times where stuff gets through. People tell you it's completely attached and then it comes with like the bottom staples popped. And it's just like, okay, well, you didn't disclose that. That's not cool. But a slab's going to tell you what the deal is. And like you said, on certain books, it is also nice because when it's certified like a lower grade, even if it presents nicer, sometimes you can get a little bit of a deal. But I also think as a seller, it's honestly a great investment. It's easier to sell because people know exactly what you got, and you get like a little bit of like a premium as long as it's like an older book or something like that. You see a raw that looks about a slabbed copy, you're paying for the guarantee of what it is. You know what I mean? So I think it's good both ways for that. And I mean, honestly, you need them slabbed if you really want to insure your collection properly. Not just for preservation, but just so like literally they can assign a value to give you an insurance policy on your collection. You know what I mean? So that would be a good idea there, but I'm also with you. Not a slab guy. I feel like it turns it more into a trading card than keeping it a comic book. There's no reason for me to like want to just flip it over once and twice. Like I like having the opportunity to pull it out and flip through it. I just got a new book in recently. For those who don't know, Hulk 180, first appearance of Wolverine, not just the first cameo, but the first appearance. You know, if you just buy the slab like I did, it was a 3.5. That ain't high enough to keep in there. I'm gonna crack it, of course, get a cut on my hand, ripping the plastic in half, and then having a really hard time cutting that inner plastic sleeve off. But like, I wouldn't be able to see that it has a Marvel value stamp, which is cool. You know, that first panel with Wolverine on it. Unless you crack it, you can't see it. I mean, we've read the facsimiles or the online reader. You can go back and check out that story in one of our backlog episodes. But you know, there's pros and cons to it. It's not for me. I'm not wasting the money and like the scary shipping or the, you know, sometimes people are doing like crazy stuff, mishandling your books. Like I don't trust anybody with my books like that. It helps the investment, but like that's not ultimately what I'm in it for.
Theoretically, I mean, I haven't looked up prices, but books of similar caliber, like if you were to sell raw, I bet it would sell similar, and you're probably more nervous as a buyer because you don't know if it's going to have that stamp or if the person's kind of accurately describing the condition of it.
You get a
But
better
you're kind
deal
of
though.
paying for like the
Gamble.
potential of an upside because sometimes it's better than they advertise, right?
Exactly.
So I mean, it is a peace of mind. It can hurt the seller, it could help the seller, but either way, it makes it easier to sell. I'd say the biggest advantage of slabs is probably the preservation because it probably does a better job protecting your book than even a Mylar does. But
Oh,
in the same
definitely.
breath, like I was saying, like because I'm a collector first, like what am I gonna do? Slab every single key issue I have? You know how much space that would take? It would be insane. And to kind
And
of have
money.
some in here and some there, I don't know. I don't plan on selling, so it's not for me, but I get it.
Sending them
Um,
in ain't cheap. So it's just like, you know how much it would cost just to get them slabbed? And all the turnaround, like you'd be without your books for over half a year.
Not only that, but sometimes they give like the wrong grade to books too. Sometimes I'll crack a slab and I'm like, no way is this that, or vice
What
versa.
just whatever they're feeling that day, to be honest.
Yeah, so that's the problem with it, but I don't want to beat a dead horse.
Yeah, well, that was pretty impassioned start, to be honest with you. It kind of segues nicely into topic number two, which is comic book collecting. Is it more of, you know, investment versus passion? Some people just collect them just to collect them, you know, for investment purposes only. People who don't like comic books, but just know about the Marvel and DC, well, not really DC, but the comic book movie boom and, you know, the collectible boom during the pandemic. And then there's people who collect it just to collect it, you know. Sometimes they could literally it could be just keys, it could be like non-keys, like people just collect to collect. What are the risks and rewards of treating these books as financial assets, you know? So I'm gonna start us off on this one and just say that without new young readership, which the comic companies need to expand upon somehow, because, you know, we're in our late 20s, heading into our 30s, and there's a decent amount of us, but it's not like ample, you know, there's not like a ton of dudes running around that are like, hell yeah, I collect comic books, you know what I mean? And if they do, they're not necessarily the ones who are collecting back issues. So my biggest concern with the market as we get old, which I mean, obviously we buy these as more of a passion thing, like we like the medium, like it's fun to collect them, but like it doesn't hurt that they're worth something. You know, you fall on hard times, you flip them, what have you. Hopefully not, though. I mean, I like them too much. But getting back to the point is when we're old and if we wanted to sell off, or let's just say we pass on and give them to somebody, like I don't know what the market's going to look like when we're geezers, dude. I mean, the supply will likely be even lower due to mistreatment and all this other stuff, but like, what is the demand going to be like? Because a lot of these young kids like manga and shit. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to try and collect One Piece, not fucking the first appearance of like Reverse Flash. And it's going to be like, well, what the fuck? Like, are people going to want our collections? You know what I mean? Like, you would think inherently, like, yeah, they're badass, but like, we're comic nerds. So I feel like that's the biggest thing with it being an investment risk. But then also, just the movie boom's over. Like, it's been like over a solid decade of just churning out movies, and they've gone through most of the major properties. And nowadays, no one's as hyped as they used to be. So, like, now comic books are kind of just back to their like assigned ordinary value in a way, the way they're coming down, going back to like status quo like any other like antique or collectible. But I don't know. It's just such a goofy niche thing. I feel like that's the only problem as an investment. I feel like it's all upside though, while the getting's good. You know what I mean?
The demand is definitely going to shrink over time. Like there will be value for those books and there will be somebody who's willing to pay for it, but that pool gets smaller and smaller over time, I would imagine. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying in the first one. Like there's better forms of investment. Like I would rather invest in the S&P 500 if I'm being honest with you, if I was doing it from like a investment standpoint.
Beanie
But
Babies.
right. It's so niche, just like that. Like you have to really know what you're doing. And I guess kudos to the people that do make it work because it's not easy. Because you kind of, I would imagine, have to have an inventory of key issues, and you would probably have to hold on to them so that you still have inventory and sell the ones that are just hot at certain points of time. So I don't know. I just feel like it's doable, but you would have to have a lot of passion for business and for the hobby. And then you also got to find out how you're doing it because I think like brick and mortar is pretty difficult to do, especially if you're only into comic books. Like you have to kind of sell other stuff to make that work. Maybe
Yeah,
stuff
dude,
that you're not
tabletop
really
games, some
exactly.
plushies, Pokemon cards.
Yeah, so like I don't know, just waiting for like high points to sell certain books. I feel like it would be very difficult. I feel like you have to kind of grow up in that like circle of people who do it. There's few people that can make it work, but you also have to take your emotions out of it too, because like there are certain books that I could sell when like they're on like a hot list on some website, but do I really feel comfortable parting with that book? So,
No,
like, you got to ask yourself, like, am I going to buy one for my personal collection and then buy one as an investment? And then it's just like this hobby gets so expensive because you never really run out of key issues. So, you kind of got to make a decision, and it's kind of hard to be like half in, half out.
I agree. That's a good segue too, as you started talking about key issues at the end. How about the role of key issues in a collection? What makes issues keys or valuable? How do collectors prioritize acquiring key issues? I think, well, I mean, obviously you could just see I'm not, I don't, I guess I'm, I don't mean anything by it, but there's like a generational like divide between like how you and I collect versus how like Ted and Juan collect. Some people are very key centric. Some people only want keys. I'd say, we collect a little bit of everything, but we prioritize keys. But like there's people who will have no problem buying like non-keys, not even high grade stuff, like dollar books, just getting runs of stuff from, back when. Some people don't give a shit about keys, which I don't know what that is because then you're just accumulating a bunch of stuff and like that sucks. Because even when I just have too many like books I've been actually just like reading, it gets real dicey. I'm like, oh, that's one too many short boxes. But I think consolidating the keys is going to be the best though if you want to be able to have a nest egg, I guess, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword because you're putting money in for sure, but like over the average, I feel like I put in less than what mine's worth at this point. So it's just like, it's rewarding in a way. But I couldn't imagine not collecting keys, I guess. They're the significant issues, like inherently. Like whether it's a first appearance, like I'll even classify a key as just like it'll be a minor key, but like a important or classic storyline like type deal. Or like that like as low as I'll go. I mean, otherwise first appearance, first costume, stuff like that. Teams, origins. Which I know you're not as big on origins. No. For those who can't see, he's shaking his head no. It's hilarious. But like I want the stuff that like matters the most to comic history. I find it cool and you know what? Like it costs more, but like it feels better. You pull it out and you're like, that's sick. Like why else do you spend the money you do on a first appearance of Wolverine if not for thinking like it's badass and telling a piece of history? I don't know. I couldn't imagine like collecting all these other books and never wanting to get something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the role of key issues in a collection, I would say it's at least 50% of my collection. I kind of
Yeah.
divide it two ways. I collect books that come out in real time,
Yeah,
and
same.
I get like a run on a title, and then when the series is over, I'll either sell the whole collection of that title or I'll keep it if it was like a really good read. And then the other half is just straight up key issues. So I guess in a more modern sense, there's not like a lot of key issues because they're just kind of expanding on the universe that's already been created in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, right? But there'll always be a place in my heart for like reading what's current, even if it's not a good investment, because I
Yeah.
feel like they depreciate so quick.
Oh yeah.
anything modern. But for key issues, that's why I'm into it. Whether it's like the first appearance of a character or a really iconic cover or just unique in any other sense of the word, it's just my favorite part of the hobby because I don't know. I just kind of want to get like one of every character I like that's affordable.
Yeah.
And you develop like a quantity of quality over time. Like there's no rush. It's kind of like a journey. And these books tend to hold their value, unlike things that are coming out in real time. Like, although I have no intention of selling, it's comforting knowing that you can get your money back or more if you decide to get out of it altogether.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, I mean, keys are like the role of the keys in our collections is very high. I mean that's our priority, that's our focus. That's what we're gonna keep collecting until we run out of stuff, and it doesn't seem likely. But moving on from that, we're gonna look at the impact of comic book reprints on collecting. So I mean, there's like those true believers at Marvel, DC's been doing the facsimile editions that you see all around. How does that affect the market for original issues and stuff like that? Does it increase the original, like, increase interest in those, or does it dilute the value? I mean, I don't really think they have any impact on the value of the books, personally. I think they just put them out so you could read them, which is all you need to. I mean, they're probably on digital anyway, so you can just find them there. But I picked up a facsimile. I mean, they had a Wiz Comics 2 reprint, and I was just like, well, that's cool. It looks like it's got like the same ads and it looks like the exact way and everything like that. So I think they're good for like, getting readers into it or maybe people who want to like collect key issues. So maybe it does have a little bit of interest, but I can't say firsthand that I've ever heard that like a facsimile makes someone want to get any keys. But I have heard people with a certain mindset say that, that they'll get a facsimile since they could never afford a real one. So, I mean, it doesn't really affect the market, I guess, because those people already can't afford one. So, like, they weren't going to get one anyways. And it doesn't increase interest because they are already too interested, but have come to terms. So, like, I feel like they're like a net neutral on the market. I think they're just really cool to grab here and there. I wouldn't invest sinking a bunch of money into them, though, because like I said, you could probably get on digital for a couple bucks. But I don't know. They're just cool. I mean, if you just want to read that story, like maybe flip through it. I like the novelty of that too. But I'm not gonna go sink money into it. I feel like you can get a collected edition anyways with a lot of those, like the those Silver Age hardcovers. I haven't been reading them in a while, but like Golden Age Superman, Silver Age Flash, like their first like volumes, like that stuff's cool, and those didn't cost me much. So I don't know. It's nice to read a story without worrying about messing up your copy. Like that's what I mean. Like if you get a Hulk 181, like wouldn't you rather get a facsimile copy so you could like flip through it and read it without fucking up your real one? But like other than that, I mean, they're just there to be read.
So it definitely makes the story way more accessible, and it's cool that you get to see the cover of like almost the original cover and kind of make it feel as though you're reading the actual thing. But in my mind, I feel like I would rather just go straight digital with it because I don't see myself pulling it out of a bag and board every time I want to read it. And not only that, but it's usually facsimiles are one issue. And so if you buy digital, you can usually buy like the whole story arc as opposed to like the one issue. And I could see like a place for it. Like I understand it, but not for me personally. I don't know. Like I just don't think like they're a good investment. And if you're not in it for an investment purpose, you might as well get the whole trade or get digital as opposed to like a facsimile cover. But I don't
Nah,
know.
I like them. I mean, they're cool. I'm not gonna grab them very often, but I think it's good for people who are like in the store and maybe don't do digital at all, like to go in there and then see like because like you see like a Wiz 2 or like a first Ra's al Ghul, like a Batman 232. I feel like that would be cool to pick up off the stand. You don't get the whole picture, but like those issues are cooler than what's coming out now. So I guess it's cool that people could reread those. I mean, no value assigned to it, but like it's cool. At least they're publishing something good. But I have a real one, so I don't need it. So that's where I stand.
I agree.
But
It's cover A, real thing or bust.
yeah, for real.
And then I'm going trade or digital otherwise.
Well, since we're getting into like, how we collect and what we collect, we're just tying in great, Joe. The psychology of comic book collecting. Why people collect comic books, what drives the desire to complete runs, hunting for rare issues, owning a piece of history. Mine are all of the above. I just like hunting for rare stuff. I am blessed with like a fantastic comic book store 5 minutes from my house. So going in there, it's typically, honestly, like every weekend at this point, real therapeutic. Do my thing, drive 5 minutes up the road, get in the parking lot, walk in there, shoot the shit with the shop, and then just start digging, dude. Just like my ancestors before me, just hunter gatherer, dude. Like, let me scavenge. I'm fulfilling that ancestral need by digging through these boxes and finding me a little, a little treat, little diamond in the rough. So, like, that's my psychology behind it. There's something just so therapeutic about just like giving those bins like a damn good audit. And there's like 5, 6 aisles there. And I just go around each side to each bin, scanning, flipping, digging. I've looked at it the past week. I'm gonna do it again. So I don't really know what that is. It's probably some like onset form of like OCD. Wouldn't be surprised. But it's just fun to do. You get the boys all up there and you descend upon the store. It's a good time. It's not like I don't know. I like sports. It's good to have a little team and go do it too. Not a big squad of people to talk about it with either. So the people you do find that collect comics, you kind of get more hype when you talk to them. There's a lot of things that kind of self fuel. Getting the rare stuff is definitely at the top of my list too. Not just because it is rare, but inherently I just always have liked obviously shit like that. I guess expensive taste, that sucks. But this is one of the things where I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna spend it on, dude. It's my main hobby. Do this, I do fantasy sports, we do some other stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I love collecting.
I love it too. I've always loved collecting in general, whether it's
Yeah,
comic
dude.
books or anything else.
Digimon
But
cards, Pokemon cards,
I'm
sports
sure it's
cards.
why, yeah, exactly. Why athletes like playing sports or like hunters shooting deer.
They love it, dude.
There's a thrill to it for sure. So you gotta love the hunt. And also, I get to share it with my best friend and my brother. It's something that I can talk about with them just outside of work. And when you're digging through those bins, you're not thinking about work and the outside world and what you got going on. You do think about your finances a little bit, but
I ain't
outside
even
of that,
thinking.
it's like, yeah, it's I don't know. And then there is part of like an ego stroke when you do go into the bookstore and
It's
with like
after.
and you find something that's like you just they didn't know that they had.
No, dude.
It makes you feel like you're doing something right, and it's
Robin
very
Hood.
nostalgic. I don't know. It's kind of a release in a way, and it's a
Oh,
good hobby more than not because I mean, like we've said, like worst case scenario, if you do it right, you're probably at least getting your money back when all said and done, if you were to ever just be done completely. But yeah, and then there's also the mystery of it because you never know what you're gonna find. You could go to a place and not find anything at all, and you can go to a place and find a bunch of good stuff, and it's just like the spontaneousness of the day.
comics is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
That's
You know
what
what
I
I'm
meant
saying?
to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm translating for you. I knew what you meant. It is like that though. It's just going in, you don't know what's gonna be hiding in there. It's such a good time. But shoot, I think we're on to our final topic, the ethical considerations in comic collecting. Whoa, what does that mean? The ethics of comic book collecting, when it comes to speculating, flipping for a profit, monopolizing the market for certain issues. How do these, affect the hobby and other collectors? So, I mean, the whole collecting game is, at least since like the 90s, been based around speculative buying and flipping for profit. Before then, I feel like everything was real deflated because it was just a niche comic people collecting, just nerds getting what they liked. But then, once it became more mainstream, obviously there's going to be a hint of trying to find, money in it. As we are today, there's money in literally everything now. There's a market. So I feel like, that's kind of it is what it is. The only thing I mean, to each their own. If they find it and they spend their money on it, they can monopolize it. I mean, in an ideal world, I would love if people didn't have like 40 copies of like The Punisher, kind of spread the goods around. Like, why do you need 40? But like, I can't hate from the outside the club, you know what I'm saying? That guy got 40 issues of The Punisher. I didn't. Like, what am I supposed to do? I can't cry about it. Like, he beat me to the punch. He had the dough. I didn't. I wasn't there. So, like, fair game is fair game. But, soft part in you is like, damn, there's only so many of us and there's only so many of those. Like, let's spread them around town, let everyone enjoy one. But we're not hippies here. If you get the issues, that sucks for me, but like, monopolize it, brother, whatever.
Totally agree. Like, what am I going to do? Not buy this book so that I can wait for you to afford it one day? Oh, yeah,
Hold my
I'm no
pocket.
socialist. Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, I mean, there's a shortage of books, but like there's not. You know what I mean? Like if you have the money, you can get whatever book you want eventually. You know what? Even if for
Facts.
Superman. So you just got to get
Yep.
your bread up. So when people flip for profit or monopolize the market, I think it actually helps increase the value of certain books. And it's unfortunate to those that don't have that copy already, and it makes it harder to buy, but at least it increases interest in that book. And it,
Yeah, demand's higher.
alternatively, yeah, it just increases the value of collecting in general. So if you have that book, you could always sell it too, which is cool. Like if there's a
Yeah.
book that's like in high demand, like nobody's telling you you can't sell it either. And or you can just enjoy the fact that it's heating up, like personally
Heat
knowing that
up.
you bought a book that is being like a bunch of speculation and
Yeah, it's putting
people
dip
are
on the
making like
chip.
a yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I could see how it can be frustrating, though the only exception is like for stuff that's coming out like that day. Like
Oh yeah,
comic stores, like if you have some bozo who decides he wants to buy like 10
the
copies, but
whole
the store
rack.
only got like 12, like that's kind of wrong. If you want to buy that on the secondary market, by all means, buy 40, buy 60 copies, do whatever you want with your money. But you're kind of hindering the business, which I don't want to do for comic book stores when you have one person reaping all the benefits at that location and then nobody else wants to shop there. Because if they lose you as
Yeah,
a customer, they lose everything. So you gotta be considerate of new stuff. But I would say
yeah.
once it's been on the shelf,
Couple
by all
days.
means, it is what it is after that.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a good point. A little bit of nuance there. For the new stuff, you definitely gotta tread lightly because yeah, I mean there might be people going in there for the first time, those people who might want to grow up to be collectors or whoever. If people leave frustrated, they probably ain't coming back. Having to seek out a comic book shop is a pain in the ass enough. So don't piss people off. Be mindful. But we're approaching the end of our time here. I'd say we put a pin in all of those questions pretty nicely, gave our opinions, we're real with it. Anything you want to say to the people before I start going into my spiel?
I love y'all.
All right, he loves y'all and I love y'all too. And with that, you want to spread some love to us, you go to at CBJ Pod on Instagram, Comic Book Junkies at CBJ Podcast on Facebook. If you're looking at this podcast or you're on YouTube staring, you see our logo. It's our big, beautiful faces with our awesome background. That was like a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears put into. Of course, I mean, quality when you see it. But go on there. We're on everywhere that you can find these things, podcast, YouTube, what have you. There's a playlist there. Thumbs up, rate, review, subscribe. I see some people giving some subscriptions. I see some more ratings popping up. We appreciate the hell out of it. It helps feed the algorithm, which means more people are going to hear about us. And that's never a bad thing if you're a fan of us. If you don't like us, why are you still here? Also, shouts out Mike. I know you listen to all these shits. What's up, dog? And shouts out to the rest of our squad too. Our dog Mun, Ashton, the rest of y'all. We see y'all. Much love. And yeah, I think that's about the end of that. And with that, we'll catch you again next time.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.